Sometimes something can happen that is so overwhelming it can take years to fully comprehend or put into perspective. In 1991, a group of young boys, the American Boy Choir in fact, encountered the realities of the Holocaust. These boys with angelic voices traveled to Czechoslovakia and sang the words, the poetic words, of young Czech children written in a concentration camp. The choir performed a concert, the title of which came from the poetry, "I Never Saw Another Butterfly." Well, if you're 11 or 12 or 13, as these boys were then, it is hard, maybe even impossible, to comprehend the Holocaust. But a decade has passed since that experience, and as the boys became young men, what they saw, what they learned, and what they sang has become all the clearer to them. For as you're about to see, the journey of Butterfly has continued.
Dear friends, thank you for coming today to remember those who left in the first transport from Prague on October 16th, 1941.
My name is Roger Panay. As a young boy, I remember standing here. 10 years later, with Ella Weisberger by my side, I can feel the power of this place, of this moment.
Very important.
It's very,
All the transports went from here to Terezin.
okay.
Now, if we come, you can come a little closer, and I will tell you what it says.
Ella's sharing of her memories had a deep meaning for me.
This is to remember that more than 80,000 Czech Jews, that they were killed in the years of 1941 to 1945. 45,000 men, women, and children were taken from this place.
From this place. My mission was to understand, to discover more about what Ella and her friends encountered.
Do you see the mattresses? Yes, on the floor, and I see my father with the cane where he had the money, and my mom said, "Oh, thank God you're not bringing anything."
My mom had her rings and they took everything from her.
I clearly see the mattresses here on the ground.
See, what she's saying is that she still sees, how we were on the floor and all that, and her parents, nobody returned. It stays in you. When I come here, it looks like yesterday, but it is a long time. It's now 60 years that we came the first transports. You were here 10 years ago, so there is always a little change, but to me it is a great city. To me it isn't happy, town. When I come, most of the time it rains. And they say that God is crying over what happened.
Arriving at the American Boy Choir School with Ella and Fred Terna, both survivors of the Holocaust, I had a sense of how dedicated they both were to keeping the memory of those who perished alive. As we walked together, I felt I was on a continuous journey, but I was not alone in this journey that began here at the school 10 years ago. That is when my friends and I, as young members of the American Boy Choir, had gone to Czechoslovakia to perform the concert composed by Charles Davidson, I Never Saw Another Butterfly. Now we are reunited with each other, with Ella and Fred, to remember, to share our thoughts and feelings as we continue this journey together.
Welcome. I am delighted that you are back after 10 years, almost exactly, to your journey to Prague and to Terezín. This reunion provides the opportunity to discuss the continuing meaning of that journey on your lives. First, we're going to watch the original documentary. It is a living part of our legacy here at the American Boy Choir.
In the autumn of 1991, the American Boy Choir was invited to Czechoslovakia to perform in concert as a commemoration for those held prisoner in Terezín a half-century before. The work they are performing, I Never Saw Another Butterfly, is based on words written by the children who had been held captive by the Nazis. Their writing survived, but most of the children did not. On this journey of homage and discovery, the members of the Boy Choir will meet a precious few of those children who did survive, and who now grown old, remember how it was.
There was a vibrancy, kind of an electricity in the air, and it was fear, but it was also a very positive feeling.
On a beautiful day in October, a butterfly flies free. Another basks in the afternoon sun. A short distance away, another butterfly struggles to be freed, held captive in this place. The butterfly became a symbol for a group of human beings held against their will in this very place, and for the freedom they hoped for and could not have.
If I can, I come to show people that it was the truth, that even today that people are saying that it never happened. It happened here.
This place is Terezín, a small walled fortress town in the now Czech Republic, north of the capital city of Prague. In March of 1939, Czechoslovakia fell under the domination of Nazi Germany, and by the fall of 1941, Terezín, or Theresienstadt, as it was called, had been earmarked for a new role. Within its walls, barrack blocks were to imprison many thousands of Jewish citizens, adults and children, taken from their homes and livelihoods by the Nazis, not only from Czechoslovakia, but eventually from all over Nazi-occupied Europe.
It was the coldest day, I would say, in many, many years. Snow, up to the knees. It was really hot. Very, very hot.
Terezin, we came in through a gate, not too far away. We marched through a gate from Bohushowitz, actually, a long, long march from a railway station until they built a spur, a railroad spur, which brought the trains right into this town. Not only to bring people in, but more importantly, to take them out without the world seeing it.
And this is the leftover of the train. And this is the remembrance. This was the last, stop where yeah.
Some of those imprisoned in Terezin, painters, writers, musicians, and performers, had enjoyed recognition as accomplished artists before their capture. So the Nazis believed if they allowed limited cultural activities within the walls, this could be used for propaganda purposes on the outside. A cynical attempt to disguise the real nature and purpose of this confinement. For Terezin was a ghetto, a concentration camp. And for those who survived here, it was a transit camp, a stop on the way to the east, to the gas chambers.
Main square of Theresienstadt. In the middle of that square was a church, a Christian church. And first I didn't know why I did paint all the houses without doors, without windows, without people. And after years, as I was looking at it and looking back at my past, I thought that it was maybe an instinct, some feeling which was in me, that at the ghetto Theresienstadt we didn't need any windows, any doors, because it was for most of the Jews the end of their life.
What would you like younger people to learn from these paintings?
That suffering is a terrible thing. But if you want to survive, so you have to think positive. So many of the artists were so positive. They really wanted to survive and to show what is happening here in Terezin.
There were 15,000 children that went through Terezin. A handful only survived. Most of them eventually were sent to a death camp, Auschwitz, Oswiecim, where they were gassed and burnt in a crematorium. So what you're looking at is a very, very precious thing, their memories. Art allowed them to escape with their minds. That is, they were held in that terrible place. They could not move. It was hunger, disease, dirt, but The one thing that they could do, their minds were open. Their minds were kept open. They could think about things. They could express them.
And they slowly have forgotten what was at home. And they more painted what they left in Terezin. Now they are a little they are unusual in children's drawings. There are motifs you can never see in children's drawings at all. You see there the beds.
There's just enough space to lie down. You see the triple bunks?
We were there 28 girls. Each of us had 70 centimeters of so-called Lebensraum. It meant the place to live. We were very happy children together because we needed each other.
It was one of the moments of total privacy when one is in front of a piece of paper, that rectangle or square. The world does really not exist. That is, I am the total master of that little paper. I can do with it what I want. My oppressors here, the Nazis and the Gestapo and SS, could do whatever they wanted. When I was in front of that little piece of paper, I was my own boss.
Despite everything that happened here, do you still believe that there's a beauty in this place, that there could be today?
You know, even today, when you look at around in a clear day, you can see the mountains. You can see the sun coming up and you can see the sun is going down. It is beautiful and you don't think about where you are really. You know, this is somewhere behind the mountain that there is a beautiful life. And this is what we hoped when we were here. We didn't see all the dirt and all that soul that we are living in this way. We were living in hope that it will be again good time and we will go home.
Allow me to read to you a letter from President Václav Havel, which he has addressed to the participants of this event, commemorating the 60th anniversary of the first transport. Dear Assembly, by remembering the beginning of the deportation of Czech Jews 60 years ago, we are remembering the tragic key moment when the persecution of one group of citizens escalated to physical isolation and eventually systematic murder. More than half a century has passed since. There are people here for whom this place is filled with tragic memories, losses, and suffering. I value their ability. to focus their strength to preserve individual and collective memory about this time, to help others understand the circumstances that led to the Holocaust, and to share their knowledge and their memories, especially with the young generation.
Of course, as a mother and for a grandmother, the feelings are always great, and I am always, of course, proud of both of them. But my feelings here are always joined with the feeling that I think for all the children which couldn't be born, all of us could have children, only I was lucky enough to survive and to marry and to have children, give birth to children. How can you imagine how many children died? Couldn't give birth. So my good feelings are always joined with the memory of all of the children who couldn't come here today and can be as lucky as I am.
Under order of the Nazis, in spring of 1942, they started to build the crematorium, and only in October they started a fire to burn. Till then, they were mass graves here. There were burned here 30,000 corpses. And one day in 1943, gendarme, not Nazi, not Gestapo, SS, smuggled into the camp a little tree and gave it to one of the teachers, and she survived, and she replanted the little tree, and that's it.
Here?
That's the little tree.
On a purple sunshot evening, under wide flowering chestnut trees, upon the threshold full of dust, yesterday, today, the days are all like these. Trees flower forth in beauty, lovely too their very wood all gnarled. And that I'm afraid to peer into their crowns of green and gold. The sun has made a veil of gold, so lovely that my body aches. Above, the heavens shriek with blue, convinced I've smiled by some mistake. The world's abloom and seems to smile. I want to fly, but where, how high? If in barbed wire things can bloom, why couldn't I will not die.
Okay, I have to really now say something that probably you would know. When I got phone call after the 10 years again, to be with you people, you're a young man. I remembered you as little kids, but how important it was that time for us to listen to those poems in music and to your voices. And when I saw the documentary on television and people were calling me, Ella, those boys, we never heard them before, what beautiful voices they have and how much this means to us survivors.
Teresine that had a strange ambivalence for me. On one side, horror, and on the other side, exhilaration about the art that was done there. And you connected somehow in your poetry and in your voices the beautiful, and at the same time were able to invoke or revoke the things that happened then. And it was and still is a very, very important memory for me.
Watching the video yesterday, I remember there was one shot of these birds perched on the roof of a church, and then they just went circling around and then just went back to the roof of the church. It just reminded me of what it felt like to be in Teresine, of the heaviness of the air there even, and of the smell of the smoke in the air that just didn't go away. Even when it was crisp and cold, like in an October day, when it's fall and it's chilly, it was heavy. There was still a heaviness there. And the power of art to bring that immediacy back of the smell, of the sight, of the, even the angles of the shadows in the fall sun.
I was sitting in the back of the bus, the windows were open. And approached the dark town and went through the portico, ran underneath, boys scary, and they got off with their teachers. Same as happened before. It was history revisited for me.
We were coming in on the bus, and then suddenly you just see a sign, crematorium left. And that was just so freaky. It's like, that was just the sign for where you burn massive numbers of bodies. And there were just, I had known about it up to that point, but I hadn't really gotten to feel like this is the place.
Well, now that I've been here for a while, I've realized that somebody could have, and actually probably did, since there were so many people who did die here, that somebody had probably died where I had stood, maybe once, maybe twice.
It was really like time warp back to 1943 or something like that. It was really very intense just to be there.
I was one of the youngest people on the trip. I was 11.
When you first think of it, when these choirs were announced to us back at the school, that we just think of it as another tour. And when you come here, it shines a whole new light on the subject.
At the time, I knew that what we were doing was monumental, that no one else our age does something like this, that people don't live history this way. can really appreciate what it was we did and how that's really affected us.
Something happened to you when you were 10, 12, 13, whatever your age was then. Now, 10 years later, you've grown up. And I'd like to know, what did you carry away from there? How do you feel different?
I think that's a huge question, and I don't know if, at least I don't know if I'm able to fully verbalize the answer to that, and I don't know if any of us really are. I was talking to Roger about it last week, and we were talking about, we wrote on our college entrance essays, we wrote about the experience.
I don't think, I was not really surprised because I had already heard the poetry and there was hope in that poetry.
Now that one of the reasons I'm so idealistic about things like art and things like music and poetry and that kind of thing, the arts, it's because I saw it firsthand, the real transforming and the real preserving power of it. Is just this feeling of real optimism, but it's not an optimism that is everything's going to be okay. It's not that. That's not what I mean. But it was really a feeling of choosing the best.
I was talking to Ella, and she was saying how some people she knew that went through it weren't as lucky as her and aren't as happy. But the only way you can really get through it is by trying to set the atrocities aside and enjoy your life for what it is.
10 years ago, you guys all know, I was a little young thing. I was 11 years old. I'd come from Newark and was living in Princeton, surrounded by a bunch of white people that I did not know. And I'd gotten all these weird stories about, be careful about white people, because there's ignorance and you don't know. And I was, for me, trying to learn about who I was as what the label of an African-American man was being told to me without me actually getting to understand it myself. And then a month after that, all of a sudden getting chosen to go to Czechoslovakia. And there are people that I know that didn't know where that was. And then getting sent to Terezin. I felt truly blessed to be a part of that, but at the same time, it was so overwhelming for me that I didn't actually comprehend it because it was so many changes for me at that time.
Singing the Butterfly in front of survivors, meeting the survivors, seeing the town that they lived in, it's really something to see. It's given me a whole new feeling of seeing the butterfly and seeing how what people went through.
Looking back at it now, it's amazing that those children were our age that wrote that poetry at the time, and it was so profound and so eloquent.
Hey, try to open up your heart to beauty. Go to the woods someday. Weave a wreath of memory there.
that in these poems that the children have done, that in this incredible place, that the children were able to see in the midst of all of that, the beauty, the hope. That's the incredible thing, that under this suppression there is still beauty, there is still hope.
The first piece I did, I looked through, I selected some poems, and the Rose Garden was the first thing I'd written, and I cried while I was writing it.
A little garden, fragrant and full of roses. And a little boy walks along it. A little boy, a sweet boy, like that growing blossom.
Well, a lot of the kids were close to my own age, and I felt that I was writing a memorial for them, and had to be very careful, had to make sure I did a good job.
Going to Terezin has, really opened up that door of thought.
Most of the people in the U.S. haven't been here, and they don't know what it's like here, so people wouldn't know how much it means to be alive.
But now as adults, it's important for us to remember what we did and being able to talk about what we did, and it's important for us to share.
I was an 8th grader at the time and one of the older boys, and tend to be very quiet. I tend to reflect upon things. I think what Ella and Fred and everybody else and all the stories that you tell us and everything that's happened, when I think of that, it gives me a sense of hope. The world is what you make of it, and I think you two have definitely helped me think of that.
How it's affected me afterward is, well, I just generally tend not to hate people. I try not to do anything that would even in the smallest way would approach that, because it is so horrible.
Tolerance is very important. And this is what I'm talking to children about, tolerance. We have to be tolerant to other people, we have to respect other people, and we have to respect ourselves.
I think when we talk about reverberation and what the Holocaust means, and then the experience we had 10 years ago, which is a reflection of then what happened in the Holocaust, there is no necessarily making sense of it. Who knows really what caused it, besides intolerance, whether it's faith-based, religious-based, whether it's race-based, whatever. Just a reminder of watching the movie, just how events in history and how we need to remember events in history because of what they will show us about our own future behavior. And not just as a society, but I mean in our individual lives and how we choose to react to situations.
A lot of love stories have been in the ghetto. They did become true, even if it was in a prison. Because nobody can give you or forbid you not to love anymore, not
to have friendship in your hearts. All that is true in every moment you live.
I'm thinking now about the fear that I think perhaps we all have, especially of those of us living on the East Coast at the moment. And it actually helps me to think that if you can get through this, we can get through what has to come now.
To survive, no matter what we go through, we can all have that strength of survival. We can find it somewhere within ourselves. No matter how small, how big our atrocity may be, that we all have that opportunity, we all have that chance, and we all have that ability to survive.
The struggle is not over, and it's still continuing. And after 50 years, and people, yes, want to say, oh, the Holocaust, we've heard about that. Oh, it's nothing new. We saw Schindler's List, it was fine. But then you go and September 11th happens, and you say, how far have we actually come? The struggle's still going on, and the fight is still needing to be fought.
Somewhere, the chanciness of life, the preciousness of life that is so well shown in the butterfly tape has become part of the larger life. People may not have seen it yet, but it will become, has become part of the heritage. And so in a way, 10 years ago, you started something very important, and it becomes more important as time goes on.
You've heard the expression that music has the power to convey in nonverbal terms feelings and emotions, and what a marvelous thing it is when music is matched to a text and the marriage happens to be a good one, and the words are reflected by the music and vice versa. I mean, that changed my life as well, the writing of the music for the butterfly songs. And so the memory of your friends and their wonderful feelings at that time, and hope certainly transcends time and place, and hopefully will continue in that manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask you from where you are? From Germany? Maybe I should talk to you because I was in the original performance of the Brundibar.
Listening to the music from Brundibar echoing through this room reminded me of being here in Terezin 10 years before. Now the words for this children's opera were being sung by Ella, just like she had done in 1944.
Přišel pan doktor s brýlema, ze studenýma ušima, usadl si vedle majky a v ruce držel hodiny. Hej, pane Bikaři, dejte nám mlíčko, máma nám...
But this opera for children, Brundibar, it was so that the composer, his name was Hans Krasa, composed this opera in Prague for Jewish children. They begin to study it in Prague, and in this time they came here, and here we make the first night.
You are the teacher that you are with the group? Yeah? Ja? Ik heb gezongen in dem Original.
I was singing in the original Brundibar, and I'm on one of those pictures. Maybe you want to see, and I can show you. And if you want to, I can talk to the children about the opera.
These are my students. Are you interested to hear something from this woman? Yes.
Ja, 55 Mal. Ich war die Katze.
Yes, I was the cat 55 times. And I'm in this Nazi propaganda movie.
The Nazis decided to bring in film people and to put on a propaganda film. And when they looked at the children's opera, they decided this is really the point to show the world that children are cared for, that Terezin is a model camp.
Brundibar poražen, that we really destroyed him, got rid of him.
When we overthrew Brundibar, we always thought on Hitler. And all the children, we are free of him.
It's 60 years ago
Dass wir sind gekommen nach
that we came to Theresienstadt. I stayed here for 3.5 years, and I was 11 when I got here. And a little later, they brought the children's opera over. But I live in America, so I cannot be here all the time. But today, we are here. We are a very small group.
The small group of survivors.
We were 15,000 kids here, and about 100 are still alive. That's what I wanted to tell you.
Is it very difficult for you to come back and live with these old memories?
Not always, but today it's very sad that we are such a small group. And my mother lived here in this Magdeburger barracks, and I lived in the children's home. Sometimes it's like yesterday, and sometimes it's so far away. But we cannot forget. And I'm speaking for these children who couldn't be here. They have to speak for themselves.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I don't know if they've seen this, but I have something with me. This is mine. This is the original star.
This is mine.
This is my still from Theresienstadt. We didn't have to wear this Jewish star when we were singing Brundibar. It was very important for us that we were free for a few minutes without the star.
Anička, we lost our childhood here. And when you see Anička and we sing and we dance, we enjoy that. And I wish that all the kids should go through happiness and not what we had to go through. That's what I wish. Že jsme se nedali, že jsme si všichni svou písničku veselou dvakrát zpívali. Kdo má právo rád a při něm obstojí a nic se nebojí, je náš kamarád a smí si s námi This is
that you should get a chance to talk to someone who experienced that. This makes me sad.
First, you only hear about it, and then you see someone who actually lived through it, and you see how real it was, and that it really happened. It becomes really clear.
I feel like I have to cry. It's terrible. If you see a person so close up who was there, it's heavy. And she said, we can't forget this, and that she is here to speak for the kids who can't be here. That really hits home.
I feel so privileged to be able to come here with Ella. Sometimes I just don't understand how something like this could happen, and
It's a long time ago. The last performance was in Terezin in 1944, September, and in October most of the kids went to gas. So I speak now in their voices. And I hope that Brundivar will never die. And we stayed here to the end. 100 of us. Right?
As Ella goes around talking about the experience, so do I, both of us feeling a very, very heavy obligation to let the world know and sort of to hand it to the next generation. And you guys are the next generation. And so the memory of those who perished will not be lost.
It's up to us now, having had the opportunity to hear your stories firsthand and to share so much with you. It's up to us now to continue spreading it and make sure that nobody forgets about it.
I would like to say something. You know, some little child, probably, maybe my friend, I don't know, wrote a little poem, very short, and I am keeping it as mine. And you and I, and we are friends. And you and I, and we love each other. In Terezin we met, friends in need, hand in hand. And you and I, friends we still be. And you and I shall never forget. I can't forget you guys. You are a young man and the whole future is before you, and keep fighting like we did.
Funding for the Journey of Butterfly, The Legacy, has been provided by Lawrence P. Freyberg. Copies of the documentary can be purchased by calling 1-800-655-1998. For further information, please visit www.journeyofbutterfly.com.